Mars Pouyan from GBC Live. Today we want to talk about music and art. We have a great guest here, Sid Harth. He's a co-founder of Chaiti Foundation, which is all about music and art from India. What they want to do, let's see, let's ask from him. Before going through the topic, we need a brief introduction of you and your story and so on.
Hello, namaskar, ni hao. My name is Sid Harth. I'm from India, living in China. I'm a logistics agent by profession, and music is actually my passion. I manage, or I'm a co-founder of Chaiti Arts Foundation, which is involved in exchange programs of classical music between China and India. We've been active for the last 5 years, exchanging programs, bringing in Indian classical music in China, which was not there before, and also collaborating and doing exchange programs, training, workshops, along with Chinese musicians. So it's not a business, but it is something which is driven out of passion and the love for the arts.
Very good.
And I guess that's why I'm here to talk to you.
Very good. Why music? Why not other things? Like culturally, we have many other objects, subjects, things that we can talk, and we can bring it for cross communication between different culture, different countries and societies and people. Why you started from music? Are you a musician, or why? I mean,
well, it's because I think that number one, I'm not a musician. I regret not being a musician. I wish I could learn some form of music. I do collect instruments, music instruments, but I wish I could have learned some music. But what you asked is why music is, number one is because it's an individual choice that I was drawn to classical music from a very young age. And then when you grow, you get involved with different jobs, and then you miss, and then after a while you go back to your roots, and you start liking your folk dances, your folk music, and all those things once again. And when you start appreciating your own music, then you have this interest in showing off that culture to others as well. I think that was one major reason why I started sharing our music. The second one was I realized that in China, living for almost 7-8 years, I did not see any form of Indian classical music in China. I saw more popular form of music, which was Bollywood. But I thought that let's try to show our own classical music. But if we spoke of the subject, I believe that music is one ancient form of communication. I mean, if you look at the whole globe, every culture has their own music or performing arts. There are dances, there are music, and I think it could be divided in sort of 4 time zones, which is prehistoric, ancient, medieval, and modern. And nobody really clearly knows that when did music come into existence. But what we understand is that music might have come from the tribals of Africa, playing drums or percussions. But I've read somewhere that music is 60,000 years old. I mean, there were tribes which were playing with stones, small stones. It could be rituals or something. But so, more recorded history of music is from the ancient times. Like, for example, our Indian classical music dates back to 2000 BC. And so, I feel, and so is in the medieval time or in the modern history, classical music took shape from the Greeks. And so there were the Persians, there were the Mediterraneans, Middle Eastern, Indian. So this was the time, the medieval time or the modern history time, where music started to speak to people all around the globe. People started exchanging.
Very good.
So this came to our mind that we are neighbors, China and India, divided by this one big mountain. All right, but we don't know each other's culture so well. We like each other, we do a lot of business with them, but we don't know each other's culture. So, and when we started doing this, it was not meant to be done for the public. It was meant for my own self, that I wanted to listen to some classical music. And when we did this, we had 200 odd people coming in, and most of them were Chinese people. So I realized that people like it. And then this whole foundation is run by 2 families. We decided that, well, let's do it properly, bigger, and let people see what a beautiful thing we have.
Very good.
So it's just that interest of showing the beautiful form of arts and performing arts and culture and music of India to the Chinese population. It was not planned. It just seemed to happen.
It happens by itself organically.
Yes.
And kind of, let's say, you enjoy, and the feeling of enjoyment, and then it gets back to your root, and you saw the gap that there should be a kind of communication channel. What a great thing if it's music, and that's beautiful. So, Chaiti Foundation, so started how many years ago, and how, I know that I asked you why music, but how you made it and how it grew to be like this now?
Chaiti is 5 years old now, and we did not have an organization as such. We just organized a standalone event a few years back, 6 years back, and as I said, when we had 200 odd people for the first musical evening that we had, we took it on us as a responsibility to spread this, because we realized that there are a lot of people who like it. We realized that this form of beautiful music or arts has not even been shown. And then we started going on to theaters and saying that, would you like to do these performances in collaboration with us? And well, we started slow, and then eventually we registered a company, which is what is Chaiti Arts Foundation.
Very good.
So the job that we actually do is to bring in Indian classical musicians of repute, including seniors and of course the younger ones, and now we have our one festival that we do every year. In every summers we call it Chaiti. This is a very romantic name, this Chaiti.
Where it comes from, the Chaiti, what is it?
Chaiti
At first I thought it's a kind of charity because it's kind of close in terms of the spelling, in terms of kind of pronunciation to charity. But then I figure, this is a kind of music and art foundation.
Yes, and the name Chaiti derives from the Indian calendar of Chait, which is the time between the springtime and the summertime. And the music of this is basically a folk music from a place called Benares, from that side in India, eastern India. The music of that time is called Chaiti. It so happened that when we did our first event, it was during that time of the month. So we called it Chaiti. That's how it started taking. So now we not only do we do our own festival, but we also collaborate with different festivals in China, wherein we produce for them the Indian ensemble, or we produce for them an ensemble mixed of Indian and Chinese artists. So it's in the last 5 years we've been able to not only just showcase our form of art or music.
From China to India as well.
Yes, we are trying on that, but we've had ensembles where Chinese and Indian musicians have played together, and they've had great success. One of the goals, or rather one of the interests that we have, is to take Chinese musicians to perform along with Indian musicians in India. I think that will sort of bridge the gap of understanding or misunderstanding or not knowing both the cultures together. I think music is probably the easiest form to connect with people. I think when you have a theater of performers, let's say Indian performers as well, and you have an audience of 1,000 people there, it's not just Indian. That's what encourages us.
That's great. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful aspect of Chaiti, that what you're doing here in China, and I think other countries, they have to learn and get through the same path that you're going. Let's talk about this beautiful musical instrument at the back. Can you tell us the name of this musical instrument, also the name of this? I want you to say, and give some brief explanation of each.
Okay, this is an instrument called sarod. Sarod. And this is the instrument that we have promoted or have been showcasing this year. So we've been doing shows from last summer till this summer or around the sarod, so that people could know about what is this instrument about.
Very good.
This is a unique instrument. This is inspired from an instrument called rabab.
Rabab.
From Afghanistan.
Afghanistan.
Ancient time, some musician, Sufi musician came from Afghanistan to India. That's the legend. And they then modified this instrument. And if you look at this instrument, it's unique because it doesn't have frets. And it's got roughly about 21 strings, major 3 or 4 major strings from which they pluck and play, but the others are just sympathetic strings, so that it resonates well. And it's so difficult to play because with the plain steel plate, you don't play with the thumb, this side of the finger, but you play with the
nails,
the tip of the nails.
The tip of the nails. You don't need to have a pick.
You have to have a pick. Yeah. And then you slide your tip of the nails to make the sound of different notes.
Oh, very good.
And
it's super like the shape. Like the shape is kind of modern, traditional.
Yes.
It's a kind of combination.
That's what I said. They're modified,
cool.
And it's such a beautiful instrument. I collect this instrument, and I.
Is it expensive?
It's not expensive. It is not expensive. To learn is expensive, not in terms of money, but the time that you have to devote to learn something is
time is credit, of course.
Yes.
It's very nice. It's
very beautiful instrument. And of course, this is
your baby.
Think arguably the most famous Indian instrument in the world, the sitar.
The most popular.
The most popular instrument in the world, sitar. It's got a beautiful sound, and if you look at it, it's got frets, and it's also got 21 strings.
Very
and I don't know what to say, but I don't know how to play, but when you have this kind of sound in an auditorium, you're just quiet and you're going to listen to something very great. So this is the most widely used instrument in all form of classical music in India.
Are they mystical?
They're very mystical, yes. Yeah? They're very mystical. It is more than mystical. What is the beauty of Indian classical music is we are raga based, which is the melody, and every season and every time of the day has different ragas. So if you're listening to somebody's sitar recital, it might be an evening raga where you'll have the feeling of the evening, the beautiful evening. There are romantic ragas at the late night, and there are morning ragas for prayers and all. I'm not a musician, but I just learn all this by listening to all these things.
Of course, which musical instrument, Indian musical instrument, is popular in China during these 5 years that you've tried and you've had many programs, events, and so on? What was your conclusion? Which one is most popular one?
I think easily there are 2 instruments that are notably most popular in China amongst the Indian instrument would be the sitar and the very popular Indian drum set called tabla. There are 2 drum sets, tabla, which goes with which is the rhythm part.
Yeah.
And it goes with every melody. So you have the rhythm on tabla. There are 2 drums, and they are the 2 most popular instruments. I'm very happy to learn that we have conservatories of music, the Central Conservatory of Music in Beijing, or the Conservatory of Music in Shanghai. They have tabla teachers. They have regular tabla teachers who come from India or even from US, and they teach them Indian classical tabla and the Indian style of rhythm. And it's slowly gathering pace, and a lot of young students are liking this. So
do you have the kind of information? What kind of Chinese musical instruments which could be popular in India?
Yes.
Do you have any information about?
Yes. In recent times, even we have collaborated with a few of the musicians and the instruments that we have used. Mostly, the most popular, I would say, would be pipa. It's again a string instrument that looks like this, and it's got frets also. It's a very beautiful instrument, inspired from the Middle East, Turkey, and then we have gujang. It's a very strong string instrument, and we have an aru, and aru is an instrument which is similar to a couple of instruments in India as well. The tunes may be different, the melodies may be different, but there is a similarity between the instruments. And for all these instruments, for all these musicians, it's easier to collaborate with Indian musicians.
Very good.
There is one common instrument that I want to tell you about is the flute. Every region of the world, every country of the world, they have their own flute. You call it Russia, you call it China, you call anywhere, they have their flute.
We have it, we call it ney.
All right.
I don't know in Indian if you call it.
We call it bansuri because it's made of bamboo. And in Hindi, the bamboo is called bans.
Yeah.
And the melody is called sur. So we call it bansuri.
Sur, I know. Sur is kind of Indian Persian name as well. So sur. Yasur is a kind of melody.
Yeah, but I was talking to you about the erhu. Now I'll tell you about, there's a Persian instrument called kamanche.
Yeah, kamanche.
Kamanche is absolutely beautiful instrument.
Yeah.
This is such a beautiful sound. And that instrument, if you look at it, where are you? If you're looking at Persian instrument, and in China and India, they have the similar instrument, similar sound, just a different melody. So your first question was why music?
Yeah.
Because I feel, or we feel, that music is one subject of the world that can unite people because it has a common connection.
Your energy at the end of your music, I mean, it's kind of, we gotta convert to music from human being in terms of energy. Just let's go through the topic. I don't want to get to that, but you know, well, like it says, I'm gonna go to another aspect of music. Like, you remember, I just earlier mentioned mysticism, like, but the Persian music, which I'm coming from Iran, so it's earlier we had a talk. We said it's kind of it's the connection between the human and their God and so on. So how is it in India, and how do you see in China?
Globally.
Globally.
And from ancient times, if you look at the history of music, it has always started from temples.
Yeah.
From connecting with God.
Yeah.
The first entertainment or evening or anything of musicians was used to always be in temples, mosques, churches, around the churches. So it was always to connect with the God, to praise the God. When you're happy, you would do music. When you're sad, you would do music. So music was a form of connecting with religion, if I understand it correctly. That's my understanding. But then it sort of evolved. Then it took the shape of entertainment. From ancient time to modern time, when you had kings, and then you had king's courts, and then you had musicians in the king's court. So
you had to please them.
To please them, and then the dance also was included in it, different forms. So it has sort of evolved. If I look at China, there's a recorded history that different dynasties had their orchestras.
Very good.
So people of an ensemble of 100 musicians, dancers. So there is a rich history of music in China as well.
Yeah.
If you ask me right now, what is the trend in China about music? I think the trend is very positive. That after a lot of time, the young generation in China is also going back to the roots and selecting
Chinese
young kids are selecting Chinese traditional instruments as subjects of their study, which is a very positive news.
Yeah, it's very good. So, so in terms of China, what you are doing, are you the first foundation, or are you the first group that you're doing this kind of activities, programs in China from India?
I would like to believe that. I wouldn't like to claim that. Sorry. In India, Bollywood is a very popular
in China,
In China, it's also Bollywood. They know. So I think there are groups and there are people who have been promoting Bollywood music, and it's good. It's entertaining. But I as I said in the beginning, that it was our nostalgic craving that we started this. So I would like to believe that we are the only ones who are actually promoting, not just showcasing our arts and culture, performing, but also collaborating with Chinese artists. So I think, yes, we are the ones who have been active for the last 5 years, doing festivals, or workshops, or trainings, and also. So yeah, to answer,
great.
yes.
What you're doing is kind of social entrepreneurship in the bigger category, and under that, you're doing kind of cultural thing, and you assume as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur. As a social entrepreneur, you would like to know that what were your barriers, what kind of barriers you had, what kind of challenges you had in terms of introducing the Indian musical instrument. Also, it's kind of connected to culture. What were the barriers in terms of communicating with people, getting them to your programs, event, and how was the quality of the event or the number of people in the first time? And now I know that soon you're having big event. You're
Yeah.
bringing very super famous musicians from India to here, and there are a lot of sponsors. People are going to be there, and it's so exciting. And I'm going to be there as well. So, how do you think about that?
As a social enterprise, Chaiti, we've had our difficulties. We face difficulties for sure. It's because when you're in social enterprise, you actually follow or try to do business, if I may say, from something that is your passion. You're trying to spread that to people around. It wasn't easy when we had 6 years back, when we had our first time, when we had 200 people, to last year when we had more than 5,000 people seeing our shows. Cumulative. It's a very beautiful journey. It's been troublesome. It's been we've had our hiccups, but that makes us very, very happy, and at the same time very proud of what we are trying to achieve.
Very good.
How did we try to reach out to people? I would say that I was asked this question once again in a press conference, that how did you manage to bring in so many people? I said, we did not manage it. It was the power of arts. If you give them a platform, you will have buyers, you will have people. If you have a good product, you will have a, you can do as much as promotions you want if it's a commercial activity. But if you do not have the budgets, when you do not, how do you spread the word? I will invite you once, you may like it. Out of 10 people, 6 people like it, and spread the word. I think this was a classic example of how we succeeded in showcasing our arts. That it was people we invited first, friends helped. We have a huge number of volunteers who help us to spread the world. It's not just our own Indian people, but Chinese, other expats, and people who appreciate music in general have spread it out, and people have come. And every year now that we do the event, I think 50% to 60% people are the returnees.
Very good.
Which means that people have liked it. So it's basically the power of arts. It's got that soft power that it spreads.
The
and the vibration is so positive that people come back. Yes, difficulties are there, of course. Difficulties are there because we work on a certain amount of budgets and all this. That's the biggest challenge we do. But even in that case, I see a positive trend that people have started believing in what we do, and people have started to come up as sponsors and helping us in many different forms to organize this. So that belief in people in itself is a big success.
How do you see the Chaiti in 5 years?
I see Chaiti
It's gonna go crazy.
I see Chaiti in the next 5 years collaborating with a lot of Chinese artists and Chinese festivals. I'd like to give the correct information that it's not an event management company that does a show. No. We are an organization that wants to collaborate with Chinese arts. So I think in the next 5 years, our initiative or our goals would be to reach out to as much Chinese organizers as possible, show what we do, and see if there is a possibility to collaborate. And I see a positive trend in that.
Very good. Did you have any program from Chinese musicians in India, or you just have a plan doing it?
We've not had a program. We have not sponsored or organized a program, but we have sponsored artists to go and sort of interact with Indian musicians. That's very helpful as well, because that's the incubator of something, of a collaborative project, and that's when the people get to know each other. They can produce something. But I'll give you a small example, if you allow me. Last year in the World Music Festival, we were asked to produce an ensemble of Chinese and Indian musicians. I picked up 5 musicians. So I play the artistic director part in our organization. And so I picked up 5 musicians. They didn't know each other, but they were good musicians, including the Chinese. Until the time they did not meet each other, they had impression. And that could be very harming. That could, when you have impressions, it's usually not positive. But when they came to Shanghai, all of them, the Chinese friend, the Chinese musicians, and 3 of the Indian musicians, I gave them a studio for 5 days.
Very good.
When they got out of the studio, you had this bonhomie friendship, and the music that they produced was absolutely amazing.
That was great.
So this was the power of art.
Yeah, this is the power.
So I think that as you asked me, in the next 5 years, there will be events and there will be areas where we would like to cooperate with different form of arts in China and India, and I'd like to take Chinese artists to India as well.
It's very good. I mean, I know that when you started, you were not profit-oriented or organization or foundation, but Do you think that you want to have it commercialized in future?
I would not like to say that we want to commercialize it, because that would again sound like an event management company, but I would like it to be self-sufficient. We haven't given it a thought.
Okay.
I cannot predict my future whether I want to turn this into a proper full-time business or not.
You want to see what will happen.
We want to go with the flow. It has been a very rewarding journey till now, for sure.
So you don't have any specific plan, commercialize it and make it this much of money, this much of investment, let's see how we can get investors in and so on.
I would like to do that.
Sometimes, because you know what, if you expand it in that way, like, it might be much more powerful than, because once the money comes in, because, you know, a lot of foundations, when they go after a sponsorship, it's kind of hard. I mean, you have to go and negotiate with many sponsors, and those sponsors, they want to see that what they get from that events, whatever program is. Then it's kind of hard sometimes, as you said, if you want to be self-sufficient, plus if you want to have kind of extra budget for having better things. Let's say now you have it only in Shanghai. If you kind of commercialize it, not for the sake of earning money, for the sake of expansion to other cities, or even not only in China, you can go to even, I don't know, Japan.
Yeah, we have in Nanjing, Nantong University in Nanjing. So yes, we've had those sessions of, we've had those performances by visiting artists or workshops or interacting with music-loving students, yes.
A workshop, like one-day workshop, do you have any permanent workshop, like, which I know, okay, a Chinese, they want to go and learn some Indian musical instruments, so do we have it? Or
no, we've not reached to a level, but not confirmed every year. We would like to do that. We've been talking to people if we could do that. This is one of the immediate goals that we want to do, is to do workshops. That's where you have exchange. You have a group of music-loving students or music students coming in and talking to you, and then interacting with each other, that how they could do something together. And that's what something's very close to our heart. We want to do that.
Very good. Chaiti has you are organizing your program like season-based, yearly-based. How is it?
Yeah, it's our own program, which we do is season-based. One we do in summers, which is end of May and beginning of June this year, every year. And this year we have, I think this is the biggest one that we are doing right now. We have Ustad Amjad Ali Khan, who's a globally famous sarod player, and perhaps one of the most senior musicians from India.
This is coming
for China, and we are doing
June,
in June, on the 15th of June in Shanghai and the 18th of June in Guangzhou.
15th and 18th. It's just one day performance.
Yeah, one day in Shanghai, one day in Guangzhou.
Very good.
And after that, we are also collaborating with World Music Festival Shanghai to produce an Indian ensemble, and we have a Chinese musician playing along with Indian musicians for the world music.
Very good.
And then, this is called Chaiti, because as I said, this is the spring to summer time. And then we do one event, which is during the winter time. We call it Vasant. Vasant in India means the winter time. And that is where we bring not so famous, but we bring in good artists. And we do other cities as well. Like this year we did Nanjing, we did Nantong, we did Shanghai.
How many people you're expecting to have it for the Shanghai one?
This year, 1,000, close to 1,000 for the show, yes. It'll be a house full, I'm very confident.
Well, one thing is super interesting for me, that which category of people come into to your program? Are they young generation or middle age, or what is it?
Yeah, it is the middle-aged people that are mostly interested in any classical form of art. Why is it? As I said in the beginning, that it's got to do with interests of young people. Does a slow music? Because when in any classical recitation, it starts very slow, and then at the crescendo, it's faster. But it's a young generation which wants like upbeat sort of music.
Yeah.
So we encourage younger ones by going to universities and offering them discounted price, or requesting the university administration that why don't you invite them to these shows, and they have done that in the past, whether it's Fudan or Shanghai, in other universities they've sent. So we encourage younger students to come and see the show. But we do get, most of the people, of course, are in their 40s, well established, they want a relaxed evening, and they know a little bit about the beauty of Indian Indian arts.
Very good.
So those people definitely, they make the major part of the audience.
So my last question might be interesting. Is your dream related to music?
My dream is totally related to music, and I think greater art forms, music and classical dance. I think I've been in China for 12 years. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. My interest is to, or our interest as a foundation is to open a school of education of Indian classical music.
Very good. Very
and
good.
Vice versa, have one in India as well.
Yeah.
And of course, since you asked me for my individual dream, I think when I go back from China, I'd like people to remember that I did something very nice, and I'd like to leave a legacy behind.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sid Harth, for being here and having your time with us.
Thank you so much, Mars.
You're
Lovely
welcome.
talking to you.
Yeah,
Please
same.
join us on the 15th of Shanghai.
Definitely.